Hey there, fellow Wargamers. It's your man. It's a Sentinel from across the tabletop. It's a few days to go until the International Teams Tournament. Let's have a breakdown of the list. Okay, let's have a breakdown. Let's talk about Imperial Fists. Let's talk about what list I'm taking, how I'm going to be taking it, and why I'm taking it. Because why not? So the international team, we've got Alex on the team. So I'm myself as the team captain with Alex, Charlie, Jack, and Rich. Alex is going to be playing Custodes. Charlie's going to be playing Night Lords, the Chaos. We've got some Dwarfs being played by Jack, the Votan. Myself with the Imperial Fist Space Marine element. And then the Dark Eldar, the Drukhari, played by Rich. So the list that I'm taking, submitted to the VCP app. View list. Okay. Let's see if we can zoom in a little. Okay, so this is my list that I'm taking. It is an Arks of Omen detachment. It's Imperial Fists. It's a heavy type slot from the force organization chart of the Arks of Omen. I have the Servitors in the list again and explained that in a previous list if you want to go read that. It's to do with the backfield objective holding. They screen, they press the button on the data salvage. They're really, really useful for that 30 points, sit at the back. Do nothing all game, but don't waste resources to do that job. Then we've got the Primaris Techmarine as the Warlord. He's Hand of Dawn and Rites of War. So the Hand of Dawn is a Warlord trait that, from the Imperial Fist that allows you to roll D3 extra command points at the beginning of the game. Costs CP to take it. So on average, you're only gaining 1 or 2 CP a game. And most of the time, you're just going to roll a 1 or 2 and just end up having the CP back anyway. Rites of War is the OBSEC. This is to do with the fact that I'm not running a lot of OBSEC units, and hopefully with him and maybe the Devastators around, he can just steal an objective and keep it longer than expected. That's using the Sentinels of Terra stratagem to give him 2 Warlord traits. And then we have the second HQ, which is Tor Garadon. Both of these characters can give +1 a hit to my vehicles. Tor Garadon gives +1 a hit to any Imperial Fist unit. It just means I get that flexibility, and he's a beat stick in combat. If he hits and if he wounds, which is very, very rare. Very rare. Okay, but he's a real big threat when you give him the stat lines to people. 6 attacks on the charge, hitting on 3s, strength 12, AP 3, flat 3 damage. People do not want to be running into him unless they can kill him first outright. So then we've got the troop choices. We've gone with an Incursor unit instead of the Infiltrators just to save some points. It's they're okay. I like the AP 1 on them over the Incursors, Infiltrators, but I miss having that ignore the first failed armor save and the 12-inch denial. They don't get it, but they do get the Haywire. So someone does charge them, I can do D3 mortal wounds for free. Then we've got the tactical squad. It's 3 Marines with bolters, 1 with a sergeant with a thunderhammer and a combi melter, and then the Space Marine heavy weapon is a multi melter. I would have preferred to have given it a grav or heavy, but the multi melter just with the damage output works better, unfortunately. That's the troops then. We have a Razorback in the army as well with Twin Las. Now that means that the tactical Marines can sit in the Razorback and push out to an objective, or I put the Devastators in. They then come out of the Rhino turn 1, and these guys jump in and then they push forward. What this actually enables me to do is leave the backfield objective with nothing on it, so it gives me a greater screening element with the Servitors, and actually push off the objective even though I'm still in control of it because they've got the OBSEC keyword, the tactical Marines, and then push those into the middle with the las cannon and the Techmarine on one flank holding another objective, the Marines going to the center if that's where they're going, and then leaving me the right flank or on that sort of circumstances to push a bit harder with something else. So then we've got in the elite section, we've got a Leviathan. Love the Leviathan Dreadnought. It just looks and gives it that great impression on the table. Twin Volkite nipple guns, 300 killer missiles, a storm cannon array, only 1. And then we've got the siege drill, which is amazing. It's got the melter gun inside its fist, but it's a flat 6 damage that it does against vehicles, which is really impressive. So, and the Storm Cannon array, it is nothing to be sniffed at. 8 shots at strength 7, AP 2 damage essentially with the Devastator Doctrine. And then vehicles take 3 damage because it's a strength 7 weapon. So I love this against that unit because of the Hunter Killer missiles on top of the Volkites. This is a real platform for destroying enemy armor, regardless of its toughness, especially with the +1 to wound, because of the strength 10 Hunter Killer missiles. And if you can get that off with a +1 a hit, essentially those Hunter Killer missiles are hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s on most things, with an AP 3 and then D6 +1 damage. So this platform for killing vehicles is very, very tasty. We've still got the 2 units of scouts in the army. We've given them camo cloaks this time round. So all of them have got camo cloaks. So both sergeants have the Thunder Hammer and combi weapon, combi melter. And then we've got 3 with knives because the extra attack and just bladed wounds. And then we've got heavy bolter in 1 unit because of the stratagem, hellfire round, and then the missile launcher in the other one for the stratagem if I need to for flyers. But it just gives me the flexibility to move around. But they are primarily and designed and dedicated just to score behind enemy lines. That is it. Then we've got the 3 units of suppressors. Again, this is to help with behind enemy lines, to move into the middle, to just lay some firepower down. You have to deal with them because the amount of shots, and if they are quite effective if they haven't moved. It's the issue is moving them and then they hitting on 4s, but they are quite tasty. Moving into our heavy support, which is our primary focus for the Arks of Omen detachment, we have the Devastator squad with the 4 las cannon shots and the combi melter with the Thunderhammer with the Arab Cherub. Now I have been considering swapping one of the las cannons out for a multi-melter or adding another weapon system in there for doing other jobs, but I just like the fact that I have 4 las cannon shots. And I did say prior to after going to the Oxford tournament, the Oxford Onslaught tournament at the beginning of the month, and then going to an RTT, the lack of my army not having enough strength 9 weapons to go through that T8 body was a concern of mine. So I just put more strength 9 weapons in. So I'm happy to stick with the 4 las cannon shots. Then we have the 2 Gladiator Reapers, identical with the auto launchers Icarus and then the Iron Heavy Stubber because of the upgrades for free. And then we've got the 2 Valiants, another Gladiator platform. So these are all T8, all 3 up save at 12 wounds. That is my concern. They're only 12 wounds, so they have the potential to die from heavy weapons from another Marine player, and especially maybe Nids with their long range AP4 flat, ridiculous amount of damage exocrine shots. But it's all going to be about, can I take them out before they cripple me? So that's interesting. I like they do provide that anti-armor, anti-middle infantry because of essentially it's 4 las cannon shots. 4 las cannon shots from the twin las shots, and then the 4 melter shots as well. So it pumps out a ton of shots, that does, at high strength AP. Then we've got the quad launcher. So it's a rapier carrier. It's the 30k variant of the Thunderfire cannon essentially. It has a very similar profile, 60-inch range, same as the Thunderfire cannon. It has 1 less ballistic skill, so it's hitting on 3 and not 2. And then it's 4 D3 shots at strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage, which means it's AP 1 because it's a heavy weapon. But this has the direct fire of Quake shells. So at 24 inches, if it's got direct line of sight at 24 inches, it can fire 4 shots, strength 8, AP 2, flat 3 damage. Which means it's AP3 essentially in the Devastator Doctrine. AP3, flat 3 damage at 24 inches. It's a very good little platform to just sit at the back, kill those Harlequins that are sat on the back objective, or Swooping Hawk that I had a trouble with from a Yunari player. And that just picks off a couple of models and weakens the army at the back. And then lastly, I have another I've got the Razorback with the Stormbolter twin las cannon, and that's again another couple of las cannon shots. But it's the transport for either the Devastators or my tactical squad to move up the board faster and hold other objectives and just be a little bit more of a nuisance. So I don't give away a lot of points in the army itself. So it's 7 points for HQs. No prisoner points is also 7 with the scouts. So 1, 2, yeah, scouts are 3. The devastators would make it 4. The suppressors are 5, 6. So the bonus would be 7. So no prisoner points is 7. Assassinate is 7, and then it's 13 points for bring it down, which is a little bit of a trap because of the not a trap. It doesn't max out, but I can then potentially have the Thunderfire Cannon hidden all game, which is only 12 points, and you can always try and hide a vehicle that doesn't get killed, so it's 10. So you're denying your opponent 5 points essentially by them accepting that as a kill, and if you're doing really well, it's a lot less than that. So that's the army. That's how it's built. That's what I submitted to the international teams tournament. So I thought we'd quickly go over what it actually looks like on the table. So there's the Marines on the table. I put them out here so you can see them all, and then we'll run through them quickly. Like I said, we've got the Techmarine, the iconic Tor Garadon. Then we have the Scouts, both Scouts, Thunderhammer, Combi, the Tactical Marines with the Thunderhammer and Multi-Melter with the Razorback, the Gladiator Valiant, Reaper, Leviathan, Reaper, Valiant. There's the quad launcher here, down here. Now I've got down here, and then my 2 units of suppressors. I do have 3 unit suppressors on the books, and then we've got my Servitors down here, and then the Devastator Squad in the middle, and then these are my Incursors. So that's the army. It doesn't look like a lot really, but the presence on the board is pretty damn impressive when you look at quarters or diagonal deployments. The only one it really struggles with to look impressive on is Dawn of War because of how wide it is. But as long as you position well, you can still do a lot of coverage. So what I like about the army is it's very effective at killing armor. It's very effective at killing that mid-range army with medium amounts of heavy troops. And it's very good at killing horde armies with those 24 heavy Gatling shots, which are 48, and then the 16 bolter shots, plus then the heavy stubbers on everything, and all the bolter shots that I have from the suppressors. That's 9, 18, 27 suppressor shots a turn, plus then the Thunderfire Cannon and all the bolter shots, and the Leviathan shots as well. It puts out around about 150 shots. Is that about right? 40, 80, yeah, it's about 40, 80, then all the other guns, which is 100, and then that's about 140 shots from the quad as well. So the army puts out about 150 shots per turn, with the potential to kill any, well, if that's 1 wounded models, you're looking at 150 models dead, and then you look at wound percentage and armor saves and things like that, it should kill around about 30 to 40 wounds per turn. With the depression of the army's loss of efficiency towards the end of the game, this is still doing 10 to 15 wounds a turn to any given army, which hurts because you're losing at least percentage-wise, 25% of the army turn 1, and then that starts to degrade throughout there. So you lose a quarter of your army turn 1 if you put everything in its line to be fired, which is very impressive. And if I go up against a very elite army, I can do even more damage with the efficiency of the army at the moment, currently, with the hitting on 2s from the Techmarine and Tor Garadon. What I've found, though, is once the halfway point of the game has come to its fruition, so turn 3, essentially, if I'm not winning the game by points or don't have board control, I'm starting to lose the board presence with models lost and attrition at that point of the game. So I'm struggling to have control of the primary. All the secondaries I'm scoring well on the secondaries. It's either 15s or 12s. I don't think I've scored anything under 10 in any of my primaries in the last 7 and 10 games. So none of my secondaries have scored less than 10 in any of my last 10 games. But what I have found is my primaries lacking around about the 12-point mark. I'm scoring 4s or 8s. I'm not actually getting that 12-point swing on any of them, on any of my games at the moment, unless I'm dominating the game, unless I'm actually winning. But if I'm in that mid three round game and the game is quite fair, I'm struggling to get to the 12-point mark to start pulling ahead on the primary, which then is hindering me at the end of the game. Which has come close to a couple of them, like 1 or 2 points in the game have lost me because I haven't been able to hold a primary for holding 2. So I haven't got the 8, I've only got the 4. Going into like turn 4 and 5, and that's just hindered me in the fact of not being able to score enough. So what I will do in the future is probably look at dropping the so yeah, we're not going to change anything yet. We're going to enjoy the tournament. This is the tournament list, and then the potential changes will come after the tournament. I'll talk about that when it comes up to. So that's the list. I find that having the Devastator unit inside the Razorback to start off with, if I need to hold an objective on a flank and then switch to the Razorback and then the Razorback moves off, has been working more effectively. And as long as I put the Techmarine with the Las Cannon team, because they're a core unit, they also have OBSEC. So essentially the Las Cannon team stays with the Techmarine for that OBSEC keyword. Every time I've split up, it seems to have failed in what the Las Cannon team is supposed to be doing. The Incursors are still there to forward deploy, annoy, stop that pre-game move from any of those armies, but also then allows me to take that ball control in the middle, and then the scouts, like I say, go into reserve for behind enemy lines. The only one I've noticed that they don't work on behind enemy lines is conversion, because of the quarter deployment. So they are essentially going to be starting on the board and then trying to take, it goes to shot tactics at that stage, and then the scouts are there to design to move onto the objective and steal it from enemy positions and stuff like that. We have what else? So with the gladiators, currently I've been trying to get as many of them on the table as possible for the effective firepower, but will always depend on the army that I'm facing. If it's a heavy armor with lots of vehicles, I will generally put one of the Las Valiants essentially in reserve so I can get closer, because I've only got a 24-inch range, which means they move 10. They have a 34-inch threat range, and most armies that are at 34, you're not getting very much cover. So essentially you have to put them in cover, and you're not being able to move that full 10 inches to get onto your enemy to shoot them. So having one of the Valiants in reserve allows me to have that flexibility to come on and target the enemy where I want at the right time. If it's a heavy infantry list, what I've found is having both of the gladiators on the table. If it's a light infantry list but moves very fast, I need both gladiators, the Reapers on the table. If it's a heavy infantry unit that's moving slowly, say like Dark Angel Terminators, one of the gladiators can go into reserve the Reapers, and allows me to come on later on in the game at angles and get me the angles I need on the enemy to kill them for the number of shots. But having both of them on the table so far has proven to be worthy. I think the angle of the heavy infantry, so like say for instance the Dark Angels lists, the Leviathan is a much better position to go into reserve and come on for a flank due to its resistance to return fire if I can't make the charge. So if I'm going into those sort of high density armies, say the Tau for instance have the battle suits which are quite resilient to low AP fire, maximum range, having one of the gladiators coming from reserve and be able to get the angle on it because of the move it thing is beneficial. And it works again against the Eldar having the Reapers in reserve as well over the Valiants. And then having the Reaper in reserve will allow me to come on the angle that I need to be able to clear off 1/4 or something like that. So battle plan is always to take behind enemy lines if possible. Also to take Codex Warfare, because I stay in that doctrine all game. And then it's a third one. What did I take the other night? I took Shot Tactics, behind enemy lines, Codex Warfare, and then it's like no prisoners, assassinate if potentially. I'm not expecting to be able to take those, so it's most likely going to be raising banners or the data, potentially going in for the Oath of Moments. So that's the army, that's the list, that's the strategy behind the list, and so far it's been working really well. I've been enjoying it. I've not had any blowouts yet, so I've relatively been scoring high, only by losing by 5 to 10 points, which means at the team event that we're going to, a 5 to 10 points, so 5 points in it, it's a draw. If it's 1 point, if it's 6 points to 10, then it's a 1 point loss essentially. So your opponent scores 11 and you only get 9. So the idea of this list is to the idea of my list is to catch those players, because I'm the only Imperial Fist player at the team tournament. I think I worked it out the other day that there are currently no Ultramarine players. I don't know why I'm saying this. Let's go and have a look, shall we? So if we go to Best Coast Pairings, which is here, play, event search. Sorry, but here's the event, overview, rosters. So if we go to rosters, it finally does what it wants to do. Zoom out to about here. Scroll down to the bottom. So we got 62 teams times 5, which is what, 360 odd players. So there's about 3. Is that right? 5 times 6 is 30. Yes, it's 300 players. There's about 300 players plus 310 players essentially going. And if we control F and we type in fists, it comes up as 1 player. So currently we only have 1 player as Imperial Fists on here. And if we type in iron, we come up with 14. So there's 14 iron players that I can tell. Iron hands players. Sally's, that was interesting to see. The salamanders lists, there was 11. So 11 salamanders lists, 14 iron hands lists. Raven Guard, again, that was interesting. 5 Raven Guard players. You know, I don't see, I can't work out why that would be on a team event. Specifically, its specific matchups would be interesting to see what those players do and how they play that game. We've got White Scars. Let's try and spell white properly. So White Scars have got 1 player of White Scars. So that's interesting to see. Then, so we've got one player of White Scars, 1 Imperial Fist player, 14 Iron Hands, 11 Sallys. Well, who else? We've got Ultramarines, which was interesting. 0. 0 Ultramarine players going. Raven Guard, Iron Hands, Ultramarines, Sallys, White Scars, Dark Angels. Dark Angels are 14 Dark Angel players. That's nice to know. There's going to be a good hefty Dark Angel players. Blood Angels is only 3. I thought that was interesting. I thought there'd be more Blood Angels players. There's only 3 Blood Angels players. Space Wolves. Let's have a look how many Space Wolves we've got. 0 wolves. Yeah, doesn't look like there's any Space Wolves, unfortunately. I don't know why this is, why there's not any Space Wolves. And it might be, yeah, I'm not too sure why no Space Wolves are players. It might be because of they're quite, they do one job good but not anything else. They just do combat good. They don't have a great shooting aspect, although they do have long fangs with the fact that they can take 5 heavy weapons and then throw a lone wolf inside it as well, with a Terminator, with again a storm shield and cyclone missile launcher. You could have 7 heavy weapons essentially in 1 devastator unit. So it's interesting not to see them on here as a team event, but that's the case at the moment. Who else we've got? So this is Wolves, Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Iron Warriors, Iron Hands, sorry, Salamanders, White Scars, Raven Guard, Ultramarines. Who I'm sure I'm missing someone. Raven Guard. How am I missing someone? How can I be missing a Marine player? I should know all the chapters by now. I've been playing this game for donkeys. Black Templars, that was the other one, yeah. That's the one I wanted to check on, Black Templars. I think I did see 1, so 7, 1 Black Templar player. There's 1 Black Templar, so there's 2 Dorn players. Crimson Fist. Any Crimson Fists? No Crimson, unfortunately. Yeah, no Crimson Fists. Yeah, it's an interesting sort of matchup with the Marines. I don't see many Grey Knights. Yeah, 12 Grey Knight players over last year, which was nearly half of them. Half of them. When you think of 62 teams, you expect to see at least 30 Grey Knight players. Last year we had over 30,000 some players. There's now 7. There's only 7,000 some players. Death Guard was over 30 as well. The 27 Death Guard players last year. There's now only 7 Death Guard. So that was interesting to see. If I type in demons, let's find out how many demon players we've got. Demons are 15, so that's gone up because there wasn't any demon players last year essentially. Oh, there was a few, weren't there, with Bellacore, I suppose. But yeah, demons have now gone up a little bit more than there had been. Custodies was interesting. That was in every list last year. The Custodies were. So yeah, Custodians are now 29. There was 45 players playing as Custodians last year. So we've got less Custodians, but they're around about where I expect them to be at the moment. Asiani, though, that was interesting to see. 5 Asiani players. How about Eldar? The Eldari. The Eldari they've got 4 players with the Eldari. So there's a good mix. Admech, I think they're back as well. The Mechanicus, they're back up to 5. Do you know what was really interesting was Knights? So, you know, it looks like there is going to be, what we got? Knights, Renegade is 14, but Knights in general have Imperial Knights and Renegade Knights are 49. So there are 49 players. So that's pretty much one in every list essentially, nearly, which are just bringing Knights. Which is what I thought would be the case. That T8 body is absolutely huge at a team event. You can throw it against someone who just cannot deal with the T8 body or the T7 13 armigers. There's more Renegade. There's more Imperial Knights though than there are. I think there's more Imperial Knights anyway. Yeah, there's a good mix anyway. But yeah, so I'll leave it there. I'll do a quick breakdown of what I think are some of the greatest lists there at the moment and some of the teams. I mean, we've got the UK team going, we've got a couple of American teams, Spanish teams, French teams are coming over. So it's called the International Team Tournament for a reason. There are some really big players. So we've got Vic VJ and his team from London from coming up. Like I said, Manny and his UK team are going to be there. Some Art of War players are coming over to help out, I believe, as well. We've got a lot of the local community, so they're putting teams together. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the Ambrosian teams. We've got 2 teams going this year: the Adeptus Ambrosian, and then ourselves as the Ambrosian Slayers. Well, we hope to do well this year. We hope to do better than last year, anyway. At least win 3 and lose 2 instead of lose 3 and win 2. We're going to do better this year. We've got a great little team, I reckon, mixed up. And we'll go over the teams and what they're sort of running and how the players feeling at the moment and things like that, if that's what people want. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great little tournament. We're all checked in now. We did all the checks of lists. So Zach over at the Warhammer tournament team is probably looking forward to all those results. I noticed 1 or 2 errors in somebody's list, but nothing that's going to break the bank. It's only like miswording of unit configurations, and that's about it. So we are looking forward to it. It's a few days away. I hope you enjoy this. Leave a comment in the section, or subscribe and like and do all that sort of thing. We'll catch you in another one soon. Take care and bye bye.